Hi, I'm Doug Keck. This is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. Just had the pleasure of speaking with Paul Kengor, PhD, about his book, The Worst of Indignities, The Catholic Church on Slavery, published by Emmaus Road and naturally available through our religious catalog. So tell us, Paul, why is it the worst of indignities?
Yeah, that's a phrase that was used by Pope Pius X. And in fact, he wasn't the only pope who said this. John Paul II said it. Pope Paul III in the 1500s, 1537 said it. They said that slavery comes from Satan himself. So this is a product, this is an evil product of the father of lies.
Now, as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, why do you feel there's a defense required?
Yeah, the church is now suddenly being attacked for, I mean, you can just look us up and Google it, all kinds of crazy statements about the church being, the largest slaveholder and launching the transatlantic slave trade, which began in 1444, the transatlantic slave trade. We have church encyclicals, bulls, and statements going back to 1434, 1435. In fact, the January 1435 one by Pope Eugene IV, Sicut Dudum, is called Against the Enslaving of Black Natives in the Canary Islands. Now that's a decade, right, almost before the transatlantic slave trade. But you can go back to councils in the 500s. You can go back to people like St. Patrick, who was a slave. So the church was way out in front on this. 1435, that's 400 years before Wilberforce and the Brits abolished slavery. 430 years before the end of the American Civil War, ending slavery. So the church has done a beautiful, commendable job on this, pope after pope, century after century. And I think, frankly, it's a very positive story that Catholics really ought to know and can take some pride in.
Well, let me ask you, in researching this book, what was the thing that surprised you the most? What was a piece of information you were unaware of?
Probably just how far back it went, how deep this was, and also too that you had popes calling, not just condemning slavery, but calling for the excommunication of anybody who had slaves, including princes. You had the church calling for reparations. The church calling for reparations, 400 or 500 years before Black Americans have been calling for reparations. So I guess if maybe I was struck by sort of the depth of it. Also, too, statements from Paul III and others in the year 1537 saying, condemning slavery of all people later to even be discovered by Christians, as he put it. So they're not just condemning the enslavement of Christians, they're condemning the enslavement of anyone, because the church believed that all human beings, whether Christian or not, are made in the imago Dei, in the image of God, and you should not enslave human beings.
Right, intrinsic dignity. Thank you so much, Paul Kengor, PhD, author of The Worst of Indignities, The Catholic Church on Slavery. Again, that book is available through our EWTN religious catalog. Look for the entire interview we did on the book on our on-demand page and on our YouTube channel. I'm Doug Keck. Thanks for joining us for this Bookmark Brief.